Alrighty, so now we're going to be going over the ins and outs of the porn industry. We're going to be answering the question, is porn bad? So while it is important to acknowledge that many women have shared their stories about the abuse they've endured while working in porn, some women have had a positive experience. So we're going to be looking at the different experiences that women go through while working in porn. We're going to be talking about the fact that most pornographic content is written, directed, and produced by men. And so clearly porn is often geared toward the male fantasy. A lot of people talk about whether we should just completely get rid of porn or whether it just needs to be changed and reformed. And there's this feminist, Cindy Gallop, who owns a porn site called Make Love Not Porn, who basically has the stance of re-education, rehabilitation, and reorientation in the porn industry so that everybody can have a voice and everybody's sexual desires and fantasies can be explored. A big question that people ask about the women in the porn industry is, do they want to be there? So like I said previously, everybody has their own experience in the industry, and privilege exists everywhere, especially in porn. So while in the normal world we'll see white women and wealthier women have more privilege than women of color and women of lower socioeconomic status, it's the same in the porn industry. So a woman that has to provide for her kids and has to put food on the table might be willing to say yes to some more things than somebody that's just doing it to kind of like thrive on their own. So yeah, like I said, privilege definitely is a factor in whether or not your experience in the porn industry is going to be positive or negative. A lot of times men take advantage of the women that are in the vulnerable positions in the industry, and oftentimes women get hooked on drugs and have a hard time getting out even if they want to. So yeah, there are two sides of the industry. Definitely, I think there are people that respect sex work and there's people that don't. And one person that really respects sex work is a porn star named Asa Akira. We all listened to a podcast of hers. She loved working in porn. She had a really amazing experience. She also expressed how important it was to stand up for yourself and say no to the things that you want to say no to. So like I said, I think that her privilege kind of led her to saying no to the things she wanted to say no to. She knew that she could, right? So she also says that nothing is legally mandated, and that's something that really needs to be changed. Women can't legally ask for their scene partner to provide STD testing and things like that. So she also thinks that the law is something that should really be stepped into the porn industry, and there should be laws mandating and protecting women. So here's some testimonials from some women in the porn industry. These are all very bad ones. These are all women that didn't have a positive experience in the porn industry. Reagan, she basically said that in one scene she got the shit kicked out of her. She was hurting so bad she couldn't breathe, being hit, choked. She asked them to stop. They kept filming and kept going anyway. Jenna, she says it was torture for 7 years. She was miserable, lonely. She turned to drugs and alcohol. She attempted suicide, and she knew she wanted out, but she didn't know how to get out. Genevieve, she said that the abuse and the degradation was rough. She was sweating in deep pain. Her whole body was aching. The director really didn't care how she felt, and he only wanted to finish the video. So I think that that is clearly showing that, you know, there are some men in this industry that are not respecting the women. Well, most of the men in the industry are not respecting the women in the films, are not caring about the safety of the women in the films. So clearly they're not producing porn that would benefit women or, you know, show the fantasies of women at all. They're not even treating the women that are in the films correctly when they're there to, you know, help them make money and everything. So it's just really horrible that some of the experiences that some of the women experience, you know. So moving on, we see this man, Ferris Antoon, who they pinned the king of porn. He's the CEO of MindGeek, which is a company that owns all the major porn sites, Pornhub, YouPorn, things like that. He's purposely really hard to find information about. Up until December of 2020, we actually had no idea who he was. until in December he had to appear at an ethics committee meeting for the first time ever. And he, because of Pornhub's recent accusations of failing to adequately screen for illegal material and distributing exploitive videos of minors. So like I said, in December he did show up to that ethics meeting where his stance was basically, we're sorry about these videos, we're taking them down, and we'll try our best not to have videos like that on our website in the future. But he didn't say anything like big status changes in the industry that they were going to be trying to make, or any big changes that would prevent this from happening in the future, which is what I think more people were looking for from him. So he's really just kind of trying to stay under the radar as much as he can, and continue to be successful in the way that he has been, because it has been an incredibly successful industry for him. Up until now, he's starting to face lots of lawsuits. In the past year, he's had at least 5 filed against the company on behalf of survivors of child abuse, sex trafficking, and non-consensual image uploads. And they're raking in a lot of money. In 2018, MindGeek recorded just over $460 million in revenues. And they're involved in a lot of different industries as well, not just porn, so that is kind of scary. They donate money to a lot of other industries too. So, yeah. And then we'll look at this slide. We see these are all the websites that are actually owned by MindGeek. So there's so many, and basically he controls all of those. And over at MindGeek, they don't have any women in positions of power or in decision-making positions. So basically all of these porn sites are being controlled by one man. And then we'll go ahead and look at this image. These are the top 10 porn companies according to Red Light Network as of February 2021. And I actually looked up all the CEOs of these companies, and they're all men. So clearly women need a voice in the decisions that are being made high up in the porn industry. If women don't have a seat at the table, then our voices are not being heard and represented. So obviously the porn is not being made for women, and it's actually being made to hurt women in a lot of ways. So now we're going to look at the ontologies of man and woman that connect the New Testament with the porn industry ontologies of today. The New Testament says, "Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression." So I think that the ontologies of the Bible were women equal submissive, and they support man. If they're seen as dominant, then they're seen as temptresses, right? And we want them to be seen as innocent. Man, the ontology of man in the Bible was dominant, in charge, smart, and capable. And we see those reflected in the porn industry today because, like in biblical times, while Jesus may have had a lot of women friends and had a lot of women in his group of people, there were no women in positions of power in the church, obviously. So decisions being made at that time were being made from the perspective of men, right? So when we look at this quote, we look at what it's saying, and it's basically saying, right, it says, "Let the women learn in silence with all subjection." So women learn better when our mouths are closed. To speak over a man is to usurp his authority. And Adam was made first, so his priorities are first, right? And we also see a painting in the corner from Artemisia Gentileschi, who was actually a woman painter in biblical times. She painted this painting of Judith slaying Holofernes, which is a story about a young woman who basically uses her sexuality to trick herself into this man's house, and then she seduces him and then ends up killing him at the end of the night. So I think this is kind of a lesson to men to be like, hey, if you're going to let women in and let women into your comfortable spaces and into positions of power, this is what's going to happen, you know? So just watch out for that, which is pretty ridiculous, right? So I think that reformation is really important in the porn industry. Like I said, we're going to be answering the question, is porn bad? And I stand by the stance of no, porn is not bad. I do think that the industry right now is really bad, and women are often taken advantage of in the industry. Women aren't supposed to like porn, right? But we do. I mean, it's clear, like, and we need to change the way that we make and consume porn. And I think that one thing we can all do is look up porn that was made by women. You can just do like a quick Google search of porn companies that have videos that are produced and made by women, and that way while you're watching it, you can just kind of know that the women in the video are having a good time and enjoying themselves and not being taken advantage of, right? So we need to see empowered women in porn so that we know as women that it's possible to be empowered and to make those decisions in the bedroom and with our own sexuality. Thank you.
The effects the porn industry has on women is setting up unrealistic expectations that they feel they need to live up to. Mainstream porn is created by men and for men. When you look at the big famous porn stars, or even if you were to imagine what a porn star looks like, you imagine a sexy woman, fake boobs or large boobs, thin, full face of makeup, sexy clothes, big heels. These are the images that a preteen or a teen girl is looking at and sizing herself up to, thinking this is what men like and this is what sexy is, and causes self-esteem issues at a young age. Many adolescents learn about sex by either looking at porn magazines or browsing porn on the internet. Nowadays, it's easy to access porn as everyone has access to an electronic device. These are the first images of what sex is like that adolescents are instilled with. Sex education in schools focuses on the biology of sex, the anatomy of females and males, and how their reproduction happens. They aren't being taught about consent or what teens are actually interested in learning about sex. So they turn to porn, and this is what educates them, quote unquote, on what it is, especially when going through puberty and experiencing changes in their body, causing young girls to have anxiety over images and expectations. They think they have to have a full Brazilian because this is what they see in the porn stars have, desperate to grow boobs because that's what a sexy woman is, and facing being ridiculed by peers because, again, these are what the images that are already instilled in their minds. Of course, not all from porn. Social media and what the media posts plays a lot into that as well. Feminism porn was created for this purpose. Many think that feminism porn is boring or soft or only romantic heterosexual couples. Yeah, some of it is like that, but it also includes many genres just like mainstream porn. The difference being is everyone involved has consented and it promotes healthy sexual relationships. Feminism porn can be instructional and empowering for women. It teaches them that they have needs also, that the male ejaculation isn't the end-all be-all. It tries to change the stigmatism around porn. While mainstream porn is made by men for men, feminism porn is made by women for women. In mainstream porn, women are seen as sexual objects rather than sexual subjects. They are there in the film to give pleasure to men. As in the ancient Greek, the women were there for the men's pleasure and for reproduction purposes. The men had brothels that they could go to so that they can get the experience for when they did get married. Again, showing that the man receiving pleasure is the important part. Porn doesn't have to live with the idea that it's bad. Feminism takes another approach to porn that hopefully emphasizes the art of it and the positive look on sexuality. Mia Khalifa is an ex-porn star. She was born in Lebanon and came to the United States when she was about 10 years old. Growing up, she had low self-esteem and struggled with her weight. When Mia was in college, she started to lose weight and feel better about herself because of the weight loss. She had lost because of the weight loss, she had lost all of her boobs and became extremely self-conscious over how her chest looked. She saved up money and got herself a boob job at the age of 21. She immediately noticed a difference of how men treated her and looked at her. She was told how gorgeous she was, and she just craved the attention more and more from men. One day, Mia was walking in Miami and was approached by a guy with a business card. He told her she was beautiful and if she was interested in modeling. She looked up the company and saw that it was a porn company. She decided to just go in, see what it was all about, take a tour of the place. She said everyone was really nice. The building was clean. There was even cubicles like a normal office. She felt completely comfortable, and of course, they fed her more compliments, which she loved. She started to do porn and thought this is something she could do in her own private life, and nobody would ever find out about her doing porn. The producers one day decided it would be a great idea for her to wear a hijab for a taping. Although she grew up Catholic, she knew that if she did this, it would be disrespecting the Muslim religion. She told the producers that they were going to get her killed. That's when she realized she was just their moneymaker. She went through with the video, which then became her final video as well. After this video came out, she received death threats from ISIS. They sent her pictures of herself photoshopped with her head cut off. She said at first she wasn't taking the threats too seriously until they sent her a Google image of her apartment. That's when she knew they knew exactly where she was. Mia's story is just one example of the effects that porn has on women.
My name is Genesis, and I'm going to be talking about men versus pornography and how it affects them both positively and negatively, because just like anything else, watching porn can have, a positive and a negative, just like anything else personally. But in this case, I'm going to be talking about how it creates more of a negative impact than it does a positive impact. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. So I'm going to be talking about how porn can have a negative effect in the sense that, like, they start viewing women as objects, sexual objects to be more specific, more than they view them as human beings, because it creates this idea in their head how they believe women have to look, act, and behave a certain way in order for them to be, attracted to them and have sex with them, or, whatever it is that they fantasize about, which leads to them showing and viewing more of a younger generation of women more than they do older, which they do view both, but the higher surge, I believe, is 47% for the younger women, because it shows a form of dominance and how they are able to control and dominate the younger women because they're more innocent and they don't have much experience, rather than older women, because according to studies, older women also show a form of dominance and how they have experience and how they dominate them. So according to studies as well, it shows that men look up more MILFs than they do just older women in general. But this also creates a negative behavior towards their romantic partners, because they don't find their romantic partners attractive anymore, which can lead to their romantic partners to feel, insecure and not confident in themselves, because they also start believing that they have to behave, act, and look a certain way, the way that they view women online. They think that, in order for them to be turned on, they have to do all of those things that they watch online. But that's not the case. That's just unrealistic. And it also creates fetishes in their head. And they start also having violent behaviors, like the recent situation that happened where a man killed and shot 8 people, specifically Asian women, because he had a sexual attraction towards Asian women, and he felt the need that he needed to end that sexual tension that he felt towards them. And all because, he felt, some sort of way and had this fetish towards Asian women. Also, it shows in studies that men prefer to watch porn than to actually be physically intimate with a woman, because they actually feel more satisfaction, because it creates more of a satisfaction for them, because they are able to watch and imagine what they, according to them, aren't able to do in real life, because some women aren't into, what they watch online. So it brings them more satisfaction, and, it makes their fantasies come to realization while watching porn. They actually feel, I believe, 8% of men actually orgasm more than when they actually have sex with a woman. And this also comes to show how it can also affect the younger generation more, because they simply just have more access and they're more open to viewing and watching pornography. And it creates also this image in their head that is not realistic. And they don't have knowledge, they don't have experience, so they actually start to believe what they are watching online, rather than an older generation. They know what they're doing, they know what they're watching. But whether it's older or younger, porn can have just as much of a negative impact, just as it does as, both the generations. It can have both negative and positive, but more negative than positive. And it affects, like I said, all generations, not just specifically the younger. Lastly, the men's experience with pornography is not so good, because it can also affect them personally and emotionally. And, they also don't feel like they are good enough, because they also believe that they have to look, act, and behave a certain way in order to satisfy a woman. And that's also not, realistic. And they believe that they aren't good enough, and that they think they have to look like the porn stars that they are watching. When it also comes to the penis size, they believe they have to be this, humongous, penis. But that's not the case. It shouldn't be that way. And it affects them, their self-esteem, because they believe that they have to look like how they believe that they have to look like the porn stars that they are watching online. And it can also create self-esteem issues, and it can lead to them having also trouble with their partner, because they also don't feel that they are attractive enough for them.
So now that we know how the porn industry depicts women, here is the specific definition from the Oxford Dictionary of the word sexualization. Okay. So sexualization is the act of sexualizing someone or something, seeing someone or something in sexual terms. So an example is the inappropriate sexualization of young girls, or she is disturbed by the sexualization of today's youth. It's very fascinating how when you look up the definition of sexualization, you see the definition mostly garnered towards women, girls, young women, but we also have to understand that men can and are sexualized too. If the New Testament teaches us that women should be equal, why are men's physical pleasures made a priority over women's? Just think about it for a moment. According to the pop porn star sensation Stoya the Destroyer, she says
on the podcast, Guys We Fucked, at 1 hour and 6 minutes in, that men control the entire set. If a man's penis is unable to stay erect, that 10-minute porn video can go on for hours and hours and hours. And the women just have to be there. She also states that interracial sex to the porn industry may not really be interracial at all. Her quote is that if the man looks black, then he is black, regardless of his race. So what does race have to do with it anyways? So again, the porn industry doesn't view interracial the same way that we normal people view it. The term interracial to the porn industry is only for a man who looks black regardless of his actual race. So as long as he looks black, then he is black, and then he's normally stereotypically paired with a younger blonde white woman. Okay? And then those videos are in turn titled Black Cock in Innocent Vagina. So what kind of view does this have on our black men? You know, interestingly enough, interracial normally does not get applied towards black women with a white male. Again, so how does this create a negative ontology for men and women of color? According to Gonzo Pornography by Gail Dines, it is argued in this article that this white construction of black male sexuality is what drives IP and serves to heighten the sexual tension in the pornography business, while simultaneously making this country an increasingly hostile and dangerous place for people, especially blacks, who fall outside of the markers of whiteness. So, with the concept of whiteness in porn, let's take a minute to discuss the contemporary ontology of sexualization of Asian women. With the recent shooting at the Asian massage parlors, it's not considered racially motivated or a hate crime, but more of a sexual addiction. What? So Asian women in the industry are getting hypersexualized, targeted, and fetishized, and it wasn't considered a hate crime, but more of a sexual addiction. Which means that the terrorist was so into fetishizing Asian women that he decided it was their own fault for being too sexual that he decided to just kill them instead. How man-like thinking is that? Okay. So now let's take a moment to look at a Hollywood blockbuster film called Full Metal Jacket. I want to show you guys how this dehumanizes Asian women and show them as submissive commodities. I found an ongoing theme within the porn articles that accentuate whiteness, and I think in porn, it's about how far can women be pushed. So this is like gangbangs and teen, naughty. Normally it's always the woman that's being, put in a place where she can't necessarily say no. But we do have to understand that the porn industry does not show the consent aspect of it. Okay, so relating this back to race and Asian women in the porn industry, it's more so how Western culture see Asian women as subservient and weak. This allows men to have control over these women and prey upon them for the purpose of sexual desire, as well to just have control in general. So even some Asian cultures see female daughters less valuable than sons. I think this represents pretty well about the ancient Greek mythology and also Christianity in the Old Testament, where women were not considered good enough to lead. So Western culture really takes upon that belief and sees them as submissive, cute, innocent. Women in the porn industry are stereotyped in ways that Western culture views women and minorities. But the question kind of leads to, why are Asian women specifically labeled as naughty, sexualized temptresses when every other race is involved in porn? So, in the article, Gender, Race, and Aggression in Mainstream Pornography, the majority of male performers are white. Okay, they take up about 81.6% of the overall category of every single category there is in porn. They're in there. Okay, so 37% are white, 27% are black, 15% are Latina, and 17% are Asian. So as for the racial / ethnic combinations, most of the combinations were white men with any of the four main racial groups, and then women, black men with either white or black women, and then Asian men with Asian women, and Latino men with Latina women. So more specifically, it's a white man with a white woman, white man with a black woman, a black man with a white woman, a black man with a black woman, Asian woman, any partner, and Latina woman, in any partner. So again, all races are involved in porn. And if all races and ethnicities are involved in porn, most Asian women in porn play a specific role as the masseuse, the schoolgirl, the submissive woman. These media portrayals have real-life impacts on the way that people conceptualize women and how they treat them. In Hollywood movies, Asian women are sexualized temptresses interested only in the American money, hence $5 for a happy ending. People hear these phrases and do not realize the harm it creates when people quote these films. Okay, so let's work together in redefining the way men and women view women's bodies. And scene.